Hello, Saturnians. So today I am going to show you how I work with the Ancestral Path Tarot. This is actually a continuation of another video I made a while ago about how to bond and connect with your tarot deck. I'm just going to leave the link down below for you to go and watch that video first, and then you come back to this one. In that video, I showed you how I personally connect with this tarot deck. And then one of my subscribers, who is also Brazilian, by the way, asked me to explain how I actually work with these cards. So, Fabiana, this video is for you. So these cards are really beautiful, and they are also very large, as you can see, which I love because then I can really see the details in all the images. And if you watched my previous video about this deck, you saw that for me the key to interpret these cards is hidden in the facial expressions of the people. The artist, Julie Kuchawatz, she's really good at portraying emotions. So let's have a look at some of these cards. And okay, so this is the Seven of Swords, and he's carrying all the swords. And you know, he looks quite satisfied while the people behind him are distracted. So it looks like he's getting away with something. He's not being noticed because everybody else is distracted. And yeah, he's happy. He knows he got this. So it is exactly what the Seven of Swords means. And look at this other guy. He looks quite tired. He's been working on the fields all day. But even though he's tired, look how he's not fully, he's not really resting. He's still holding his tools, and he's not even sitting down. He's just, resting for a few minutes before he has to get up again and go back to work. And what is the Nine of Wands? The Nine of Wands is your last battle before your work is done. So I think this is brilliant. Then we have one of my favorite cards, the Eight of Pentacles. Look how this lady, she's not unhappy, but, she's concentrated, she's focused, she doesn't look really tired. She just wants to get her work done, and she's fully immersed in what she's doing. She's not being distracted by her surroundings. And this is the Eight of Pentacles. Mastering your craft, doing what you've got to do. And I think this is a beautiful representation of the Eight of Pentacles. Somebody doing what needs to be done. And I love this Strength card. Look at her face. She looks like she has dominated the lion completely. And for me, the lion represents the instincts, the passions. And she's comfortable with the lion beside her. He's not really attacking her, but she's not letting her guard down either, because she's kind of holding the lion, even though she feels quite comfortable. And this is the representation of somebody who has mastered the ability to control the instincts in a way that, it's still allowed to enjoy the lion's company, because the lion is not gonna eat you. The Five of Swords. Look at this boy. He looks a little disappointed, right? But I love how the author chose a young boy to represent the Five of Swords, because the disappointment stems from the fact that he's too young, he hasn't mastered it yet. And it's the opposite of the Nine of Pentacles. This is an old lady who knows her worth. She, is the master of her village, and people go to her for advice. She looks very comfortable in her own skin, even though you can tell that she's old. She knows exactly what she's doing. There is no doubt in her mind that, her magic works. I love it. So you see in her expression, like this lady here in the Nine of Swords, you see how unhappy she is. She's crying. She has a lot of weight on her shoulders, actually on her head. So, yes, you can tell how her sadness is coming from whatever is happening in her head. And the Nine of Swords is about, giving in to anxiety, to fears. And the Three of Cups. Look how we have 3 different emotions in this card. 3 different facial expressions. And the girl is looking straight at the other guy. So we can kind of tell a story of what's going on inside people's heads when we see these cards. And we are going to extract the meaning of the cards by analyzing the facial expressions and the emotions. Look here, she looks surprised. She looks like she, is hiding something and she was caught. This is the face of somebody who is shocked, you see? And here is the Prince of Pentacles. All the Pentacles people in this deck are very collected, cool and collected. Here we have the 3 Pentacles cards. And all of them, they have something in common. If you look at the facial expressions, they're not extremely excited, but they are extremely focused, concentrated. They look like they know something. They're not giving in to their emotions. So there is a pattern here. So for me, this deck is all about reading the facial expressions and understanding the emotions. The same with this old lady that we just saw. It's the opposite of the Cups cards, in which we can clearly see that the emotions are a little exaggerated. But of course, the Cup suit is all about emotions. It's very interesting how the author chose to portray the suits in this deck. And that's why I love it so much. So now, I am going to show you an actual reading with this deck. It's so large I have to shuffle it like this. I'm going to do a 3 cards spread, my favorite 3 cards spread for advice. The card in the left represents what not to do. The card in the right represents what to do. And the central card represents the issue or the situation that I want to address. So here's what not to do, what to do instead, an issue. Okay. Interesting. Okay, so here we have the 10 of Wands. And I love this card. Look how this lady, she's burdened. Not only she's doing her work, she's still caring for 2 children. She has her eyes on the baby and her hands on the child in front of her, but she's still doing her work. You see, she's doing her work, but she's still taking care of the children. But if you look at her face, that's the most important thing. If you look at her face, she's not desperate. She's not super stressed out. You know, she's doing what she needs to do. And here is the Princess of Pentacles. She also has a baby. How interesting. And she's not burdened. You know, she's, again, the Pentacles cards in this deck are very cool and collected. And the difference between these two is that the first one is burdened with so much stuff, but she's still satisfied. She's not stressed out. She's doing what needs to be done. And she's still smiling lovingly to her baby. And the next one is taking care of a baby, but you can see how there is no distraction around her. She's single-minded. She's taking care of the baby, and this is all she needs to do. And here I am considering babies as symbolic representations of our creative projects. And here is the Queen of Swords. And I love this card because look how she's looking at everything from above, as if she's bigger than the little world that she's staring at. So when you start developing your intellect, the problems, the mundane problems, they become really small in comparison. So I think this is what this card means. And the author was really brilliant here, because what she's saying is that when you develop your intellect, and this is the Queen of Swords, when you develop your intellect, you can look at problems from the perspective of someone who's above the problems, just staring at an object, and they become powerless. Okay, so the intellect is capable of solving small, mundane puzzles. So this is a beautiful reading. If I was interpreting that to myself, I would say that the advice here is to not burden myself with, too much stuff, and try not to overwork, and find some space to become single-minded, like the Queen of Swords and like the Princess of Pentacles. Okay, so if you are still having trouble analyzing these cards, my advice to you is that you take another deck, maybe the Rider-Waite-Smith, if you're comfortable with the Rider-Waite-Smith symbolism, and you find the correspondent cards. I have the original Rider-Waite-Smith deck here. I'm just gonna find the correspondent cards, and try to see the symbolism manifesting in 2 different ways. Like here, I can still see how these 2 cards have the same symbols in them. You have the Page of Pentacles in the Rider-Waite-Smith tarot deck. It's, somebody holding a pentacle or one project. And in the Ancestral Path Tarot, we have this lady holding the baby. That's her project, her creative project, her baby. Here we have 2 people feeling, burdened by the work that they have to do. In the Rider-Waite-Smith, they are blinded because they cannot look what is in front of them. And here, there is nothing blinding the lady, but she's looking back because she's worrying about what's behind her. So maybe when this card comes up, you're looking too much into the past. You're looking back. Okay, and here we have the Queen of Swords in both decks. And even though they have different perspectives here, you can still see how here the lady is looking through the sword. There is a sword in front of her, but she's looking through it. And in the Ancestral Path Tarot, she's looking from above to a problem that is below her. So I can still see the symbolism manifesting in two different ways. So that's a good advice if you cannot read with this deck, if you're a beginner and you're having trouble interpreting these cards, but you know how to read the RWS tarot deck, you can compare the cards, you see? So yeah, I hope this helped you, and if you still have further questions, you can, just comment down below and I will give you further explanation about this tarot deck. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.